it has officially started. President Trump calls it the liberation of Washington, D.C. The National Guard has entered D.C. as the federal takeover of our nation's capital. To stop the rampant crime is now underway. Agents from Homeland Security and the Drug Enforcement Agency working with D.C. police as law enforcement arrest over 100 people so far. How about that? Facing charges of narcotics, firearms, even homicide. 23 of those arrested are, guess what, in the U.S. illegally. ICE today announcing they are conducting raids on the National D.C. Mall. The president is also going to physically clean up the Capitol. There will be a major beautification undertaking as well. To me, everybody, this is the end result of woke, or I'll call it for what it really is. It's the Democrat Party because they're the ones who push it. President Trump, his administration, the GOP, now have to come to the rescue because woke drove our nation's capital right into the ground. Democrats, who have always controlled Washington, D.C. since its inception, there has never been a Republican mayor, have taken their policies, failed policies, and political correctness to the edge, and they've pushed it over. It doesn't work. Political correctness doesn't work when it comes to crime. Being soft on crime doesn't work as much as Democrats hoped it would. And as I'm going to tell you tonight, being woke and politically correct, it ruins a lot of stuff, and people are sick of it. So how and why did we arrive to the point to where there has to be a federal takeover? Did you ever think about that? Well, President Trump, he talked about it earlier today.
They're stuck. They don't know what to do. They have probably more, I would say more than half are sane, but they are led by insane people.
That's really it in a nutshell. And look at where these people in worshiping being politically correct got us, starting with the nation's capital. Even ABC News anchors are having to admit there's a big problem.
I can tell you firsthand here in downtown D.C. where we work, right here around our bureau, just in the past 6 months, there were 2 people shot. 1 person died, literally 2 blocks down here from the bureau. It was within the last 2 years that I actually was jumped walking just 2 blocks down from here. And then just this morning, one of my coworkers said her car was stolen a block away from the bureau.
So that was Kyra Phillips, and I'm sorry that happened to her. I'm sorry, a lot of bad things have happened to a lot of people. And here's a thought, maybe, just maybe, Democrats, they would wake up and say, hey, we actually have a chance to work with Republicans on this one and make things right for the American people, but they're not. They try one of 2 tactics. They either try to play the race card.
There are many cities in between Washington and Chicago, Washington and Oakland. He only chose the black ones. So it is clear what he's trying to do. He's trying to race bait.
The president has always been intimidated by the intellectual prowess of black men.
Part of what we see Trump doing, my dear friend, right, is telling a story that justifies the fact that he believes we are a white republic. That's what he's doing.
No, he wants to stop crime, and when that fails, it's resist. That's the mandate they're all getting from the top. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he's one of them, and posted this. Violent crime in Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. Donald Trump has no basis to take over the local police department. Well, it's the old nothing to see here approach. Well, I'll tell you what, Congressman William Timmons of South Carolina responded directly to Jeffries, and I think he made a pretty good point. It's the same one I'm making tonight. This is what he wrote. Democrats like Jeffries would rather preserve dangerous cities than admit their policies fail. They stink. And that's really what this is all about. It is failed woke policy. Things have now come full circle. And we're at the point where Trump and company, they simply just got to take things over. That's it. In fact, President Trump was asked earlier today at the Kennedy Center a question about working with Democrats on something, about working together. This is the point he made, and I think it's a pretty good one.
It's almost a waste of time to meet because they never approve anything. They just don't want to prove anything. They just, we meet with them and they say, as Nancy Reagan said, just say no. They go, just say no. They're afraid to approve anything.
And he's right. How are you going to work with them? It's the extreme left that's running things. Democrats are putting up a socialist for mayor in New York City. We've talked about that a lot. But no one in their party says anything publicly because, well, political correctness. I want to point this out. Apparently back in June, Democrats who consider themselves somewhat down the center had a meeting in D.C. to discuss how they were going to start taking back their party. This was in the New York Times. Quote, the centrist wing of the Democrat Party gathered on a Wednesday in a hotel basement in downtown Washington with a grand plan. The party should start winning and stop losing. That would be a good plan. They had to meet in a basement. Think about that. Maybe there are some common sense Democrats, but their party is so woke, they had to gather in a hotel basement to discuss how to combat the extreme left. But I think it's a little too late. Here are some of the loudest mouthpieces in their party. Ilhan Omar up in Minnesota. Here's what she thinks of America for trying to have law and order.
To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets.
Here was Jasmine Crockett a couple months ago.
Unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States.
Yes, the president is the enemy of the United States. I could point out a bunch of stuff. What about this? When sitting U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen went to El Salvador and had margaritas with deported illegal alien Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's an alleged wife-beater and human trafficker. All right, how about a margarita with your American constituents who are struggling to put food on the table after your party ushered in 9% inflation back in 2022? That's a catastrophe. But no, Democrats, they speak about that kind of behavior, never. Or about the fact that a socialist might become the next mayor of New York City, never. Or about a real solution to the rampant crime in major cities, because that's not what Democrats care about. They are still solely focused on being woke or politically correct or whatever you want to call it. So it's come full circle now, and President Trump has to fix everything, like everything. How about the open borders, right? That's a woke thing. Oh, it's okay. Everybody can come on into the United States in kumbaya. How'd that turn out? Not good. Not good at all. And Congresswoman Delia Ramirez of Illinois is now calling ICE agents terrorists.
Well, Tom Homan, let me tell you, all over the country, we will continue to stand up for our rights, and we will continue to call out the terrorist organization that is ICE.
How about our universities? How did this ideology go for our students? Well, it turned many campuses for a period last year into little Gaza encampments. And as a result, President Trump, he had to come in and threaten all these schools with holding their federal funding to get things to change. How about this one? Women's sports. Woke messed that up because no one on the left wanted to offend anyone, including men masquerading as women. Grown men were competing against women in major college sports and also the Olympics. How about mutilating kids? Trump had to clean that one up, too. Here's a list of some of the health systems that have ended the practice of gender-affirming care. Just a few of them I'm going to read. You can read them all on the screen. Children's Hospital of L.A., Stanford Medicine, U Chicago Medicine. Big health systems, there are plenty more. That should have never even become a thing. And how about this? Even the advertising in this country was being taken over. What is that? What was Calvin Klein thinking in their ad department? A fat, bearded guy with a bra on. Yeah, no thanks. That is woke and weird. But we see that even being corrected with the American Eagle Outfitter ad with Sydney Sweeney, Return to Normalcy. Look, the left's way of thinking seeped its way into just about every facet of our society. It was in everything. You know, and one of the definitions of woke in Merriam-Webster's is this: politically liberal or progressive, as in matters of racial and social justice, especially in a way that is considered unreasonable or extreme. Yeah, you think? It seems accurate. And it has been tearing our country down to the point where someone can't define what a man is or a woman is anymore, or crime in our nation's capital is so bad the president said enough. We are done with this. We are done with the woke experiment. It's over, as it should be.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt tonight on Newsmax.